I wanted to welcome you, Morgan, and thank you for talking to us today. This is a topic, a lot of our supporters are traveling and they've asked that they get the recording of this conversation because, um, oh, Catherine, thank you for letting us know that you can hear us and don't worry about anything else. We got you. We're just glad you're here. A lot of people couldn't make it today because it's summer vacation season, but have asked for a recording of this video. And volunteering is a hot topic right now as we think about our parks and our resources. So welcome. And Morgan, we appreciate you making this time. You're in the field and you're working a lot. So stopping in your office to talk with us is a big deal and we appreciate it. Morgan, you are celebrating your 1-year anniversary. You joined the staff last year on June 16th. And this is a brand new role for us, Community and Youth Outreach Coordinator. Tell us a little bit about this uniqueness of this role and how you work as a trust employee, but you're embedded in the park and are also an NPS employee. Walk us through that.
Thanks, Anna. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here. Yep, and I just celebrated my 1-year anniversary, so thank you guys for the love. Yeah, so just a little about me, just to introduce myself some. I'm originally from like the Tidewater region of Virginia, so the southeast area. I was born in a small town called Wakefield and just kind of grew up on the Eastern Shore with my family, where I spent a lot of time kind of boating and fishing and just really fell in love with the outdoors. And that's kind of where my love for the environment began. Um, I moved to Luray in Page County during my senior year of high school, so I've been here ever since. I'm married into a local family, and so we recently built and moved into our family home. So I live just behind park headquarters, so I'm like a stone's throw away from my office, which is lovely. And I live here with my husband of 13 years. We have an 11-year-old daughter who's currently at 4-H camp in Front Royal, who I'll pick up later today. And we have 2 Aussie doodles and a 7-year-old hermit crab, which is really cool. And
If
currently
we had more
babysitting.
time, I'd ask you about the hermit crab, but maybe that's for a
Yes.
different webinar. Okay,
Yeah,
carry
we're
on.
testing out let's see, lizard babysitting right now. We have a, what is it, a bearded dragon. So she's gonna be excited when she gets home from 4-H camp to see her new friend. Um, but yeah, absolutely. The role was like created just to create capacity within the volunteer and youth program office. So the Shenandoah National Park is like incredibly fortunate to have 800 volunteers supporting the park throughout the year. So, however, there is only one full-time National Park Service employee, who is Karina Wendell. She's dedicated to managing the volunteer and youth program office. So it's our VIP Volunteer in Parks program, and along with a small number of volunteers who supervise across divisions. So with my support, we're able to expand significantly, hosting more youth and corporate volunteer opportunities, increasing outreach events, and enhancing the overall experience for our visiting groups. We work with a wide range of organizations, whether they're trust funded through the grants, or there are donors, or just folks in the park that have signed up for volunteer opportunities on volunteer.gov. We have a lot of position-based volunteer opportunities. So there's a lot going on amongst all the different divisions. And so we just help with the paperwork, making sure PPE and service descriptions and job hazard analyses are all made available to these kind of managing supervisors of our volunteers across divisions. And the projects that we support span every division in the park. So we're working alongside interpretation and education, trails, forest health and invasives, facilities, and preservation. So it's a huge scope.
So walk us through a typical day, and I use the word typical loosely because I know that your work varies by season. Um, and and then once you do that, can you talk about like how is a Girl Scout troop different from a corporate volunteer opportunity and some of the different ways and groups of volunteers who come into the park and whom you and Karina help facilitate their work? Does that question make sense?
Yeah. So yeah, a big part of my role is helping the volunteer and youth program deliver meaningful and high quality experiences. So we're supporting like a lot of multiple groups at once.
Right.
So I focus heavily like on youth engagement and partner initiatives, like just outside of like the volunteer-based positions too. My position's unique where I help kind of more so support the Shenandoah National Park Trust partnered initiatives like the Artist in Residence program, our Shenandoah Youth Crew, the grant funded programs again. And we just had our biggest volunteer event of the year, Show Your Love for Shenandoah. So I help expand these services and opportunities, throughout our local groups, but also within the surrounding counties too. So with the park being 105 miles long and there being, I think, 8 different bordering communities,
Yep.
there's a lot of opportunity to engage and get people into the park too. So we're working not only in the central district where a lot of our operations and headquarters and like maintenance buildings are located, but we're in the North District, we're in the South District, we're traveling all 105 miles of this trail or in this park. Um, and so the difference between the groups that we work with too is like I have unique connections in the community, having had held positions in the municipality in one of our bordering communities. And so being in this role and having these connections, it's just kind of snowballed into creating more local opportunities, especially for our Girl Scout troop. So they're starting to camp more and plan ways to give back and come into the park and have some unique experiences that aren't just like arts and crafts and stuff too. So I'm really excited about that.
Do people in the community and in surrounding counties reach out to you, and can they? I imagine there's sort of a funnel with lots of people wanting to volunteer, and you and Karina and your park colleagues coordinating all these requests, finding the right opportunities, and then making a project happen. So, how do you, for example, you've mentioned Girl Scout troops. Did they reach out to you? Did you reach out to them?
Yeah, so I help manage a local Girl Scout troop. So I'm just in there with the local mom
Yep.
scene. And so it's a co-op. We kind of help each other in terms of there's not a lot of, grandparents helping run the troop anymore. So we're all working moms and we all kind of, we have leaders. They take a meeting, a parent will take a meeting. So I volunteered in my capacity to
Mhm,
help lead the troop in this way. So
mhm.
a little organic, but
Well, that's
a lot
great.
of yeah, a
Yeah,
lot of the staff in the park are parents of Boy Scouts or Cub
sure.
Scout groups, so there's a lot of local ties.
Let's switch gears for a minute. Corporate groups.
Hmm.
So at the trust, our corporate and foundation manager, Ethan Sir, has built relationships with various companies across the 8 counties, small and large, and many of whom want to bring their people into the park to help, to be there, to be on the ground and see what it means to actually build tree cages or clean a trail. So walk us through the work that you do with corporate groups. I'm particularly remembering one corporate group where you guys were lifting really heavy logs and walking them up and down a path, and that it was really hard work. So maybe talk a little bit about corporate groups and then tell us a little bit about that story, because there were some folks there working really hard to make the park a better place, and you were there, and so was Ethan, our staff colleague. So tell us a little about corporate volunteering.
Yeah, so Karina and I work really closely with Ethan kind of throughout the year to identify different dates and times throughout the year where we can invite corporate groups to volunteer with us and help us knock out some big maintenance projects. And the one you're speaking to, we were hauling logs with log tongs up and down Doyle's River Trail in the South District. And
Who
so
was
I
the
believe
corporate group? Do you remember?
um,
Was it Merck?
it was MTC, that group.
MTC.
Yep.
Okay. I don't
The
remember
S&P
what.
Global.
S&P Global,
Yep.
gotcha. A
So we were with
wonderful
S&P
local
Global.
organization. Yep, they are also supporters via grants of our work, and they like to get their people in the park at least once a year. Yep.
They are so fun. They've been coming back year after year, multiple times a year,
Hmm.
even bringing their family. So they showed up at Show Your Love just last month too, and so they had a really great time. And the more you volunteer, the more different opportunities you get. So he wasn't hauling logs at Show Your Love. I think he might have been painting or pulling invasive. So we had them doing to diversify the experience a bit too. So they're lovely to work with.
What was it like working with professionals from S&P Global and having them be hands-on and recognizing the work that happens? There's a connection between picking up a log and hauling it and completing a project and understanding in a new way the kinds of work that takes place on the ground there.
Yeah, so when they arrive, we're not just picking up logs like right away. There's a huge safety spiel. We make sure our paperwork is in order. We're
Yep.
doing a stretch circle, making sure that we are limber and loose and fit enough to do the task at hand. We're handing out PPE, so we're making sure people are fitted with gloves and eye protection. Wearing sturdy shoes, so we communicate ahead of time too, like, pack your lunch. This is what you can expect for the day.
Yep.
These are some things that you should wear in order to like long pants. We're going to talk about tick checks and all of those things too. So there's some preemptive things leading up to the service to kind of frame it in a safe way.
Yep.
So there's that. And then when we get going, there's a lot of team building, especially in log hauling. When we're doing other trail work like vegging or water bars or painting, those are like kind of singular activities. When you're on a log, you have four people carrying one big heavy thing. So you have to talk like, hey, this doesn't feel good for me. I need to take a rest, or I'm shorter. Can I be in the front? So they're building their teamwork skills with figuring out how to communicate and taking breaks. So, you could have two people that could haul logs all day long, and then you have two people that maybe aren't as have that physical acumen to
Yeah.
to do things like that too. So they're working with each other and communicating and building themselves up as a team. So it's fun to see that angle too. And it's not
Yeah.
always about how much work we get done, but it's
Yeah.
about creating a positive experience and feeling like they've given back and they understand the work and what we do.
Our corporate volunteer program has been growing because there are so many companies who want to be good stewards of this jewel in our backyard. And the one way to do that, besides giving money to our annual fund, which they do, is to bring their people in to see and touch and do and understand this valuable, precious resource. So we're grateful that you're able to expand our capacity to get corporate volunteer groups in the park because that has increased with you being there. Is that not correct?
That's true. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's just overall just increasing capacity with Karina. She's one person, and so the planning side takes a lot of time, and so does just even getting up to the park to facilitate these projects and things takes a lot of time too. So
Yeah.
yeah, so my position being full-time, grant funded, I'm able to kind of step in and be where she can't be.
Yep.
So she'll laughingly call herself a desk ranger these days because she's able to get a lot more of her administrative and supervisory things done right now too. Like right now, she's acting chief while her boss is on vacation. So she wears many different hats.
Yep.
And so I feel really great being able to support her and kind of be an extension of her out in the field too. And it feels great for having that kind of assumed confidence and competence, and that I can go and do and be in this pseudo ranger capacity because I'm doing the things that they do.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of training and shadowing to get me to this point in order
Yeah.
to be kind of let go and
Right.
do things kind of solo now. So
Right. And
the build up to this was a lot of work.
you were mentioning that at the year mark now, you feel like you've really gotten the cadence of planning, helping with the administrative and planning and supply side, and then actually being there with these volunteer groups on the ground, and making sure that they're safe and they're connected. So that effectively doubles the capacity of the park to bring people in, to bring volunteers in. Now, switching gears, how do you pick projects? You mentioned building water bars. The group from SNP Global was hauling logs. What other types of projects do volunteer groups do, and how are they selected?
That's a great question. So we do kind of like a large call to all of our division supervisors. So we kind of follow this hierarchy and kind of start at the top, and they
Within the
connect
park.
us, yeah, in the park.
Yep.
So we
Yep.
work alongside the division chiefs and
Chiefs.
supervisors and things. And so we do a call for projects, hey, we have this many volunteers coming into the park for this amount of time. They'll be in the North District here, Central, South, giving them an idea of our schedule and when we can take on projects. And then they kind of give us a list of things that we could work on, as we have time. Like that
Once a
log
year?
project.
Do you do the call for projects once a year or multiple times a year since people's needs can change, right?
That's it. Yeah. It's so
Yeah.
it's initial call for jobs with all the different divisions, like what we can help increase capacity with.
Yep.
Trail maintenance, I will say, is a big chunk of what we do. So it's really nice when we get like a forest health project or a painting project or something a little different. But
Yep.
there's 500 miles of trail.
Yep.
And so that's just like probably one of the biggest needs that will always be there. So there's that volunteer job security. I should say that there will always be a need for
Yeah.
support, like from our youth crews and things. So I don't see that going away.
Mhm.
And I also just want to shout out to PATC because we could not keep up with our backcountry trail system of the AT without
Yeah.
their volunteer support too. So it's
Just
it's
to
a
help with some of the
village.
acronyms, I'm sorry to interrupt. PATC is
Yeah,
the Potomac Appalachian Trail Club. Did I
correct.
get that right?
Hmm.
And they manage, purely a volunteer group, hundreds of miles of trails through their own volunteer cycle and system, and they collaborate directly with the park for that.
Correct.
So you said trails are always going to need help. The park could not do all that without PATC. So thank you for shouting them out. We have a wonderful, close relationship with them. They're cousins to us, and we're all working for the same goal. What are some of the other like different projects that aren't trail maintenance?
Yeah, so we have forest health projects.
Give us an
So
example.
we, yeah, of course. So we monitor the hemlock woolly adelgid. So as you know, or maybe you don't know,
Give us a
we
little
have,
background on that.
yeah,
Yeah.
so we've lost 95% of the hemlock trees throughout the park over the years due to an invasive pest known as the hemlock woolly adelgid. And so in tandem with the forest health, team and our education teammates, we put together kind of an SOP, like a scope of project work for the our standard operating procedure for monitoring so that we can implement this on our own. So we can support with data collection, like which hemlock trees need treatment.
Hmm.
So there's kind of a system of how we do monitoring, how we report and give that information back to Forest Health too. So we increase their capacity because they monitor thousands of trees all over the
Right.
park too.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
And so volunteers have come in and helped with that.
Yeah, it's really cool too because the trust also helps fund
Funds that.
the bugs that we release. They are
What are
called, yeah,
what are the bugs called?
they're Laricobius beetles.
Laricobius beetles. Yeah, I'll send out all this information in the follow-up email, but this is a really cool ongoing project where
Yeah.
we're using biological controls, namely an insect, to
Mhm.
fight another insect that's invasive and that's harming our trees. And the fact that volunteers can come in and help with the project is amazing to me. Tell us about another project that isn't trail maintenance.
Yeah, so I guess part of trail maintenance, but also preservation. There's a lot of different linseed oil applications, or there's a standard NPS brown. So, we're helping AJ with Boulder Cabin. He needed a lot of board stained. So that was a big Show Your Love project. We primed and painted a huge section along Dark Hollow Falls. Um, it was like a barricade, from a steep drop off. So that's kind of something that we were helping maintain in terms of painting and making that look better. But that would involve like a hike deep into the woods to
This
do
sounds
that too
hard.
with paint and
Yeah.
brushes. And so that's halfway down the falls almost to the viewpoint. So there's a
Wow.
lot of physical work that goes into just the different, even though you're not doing trail maintenance, like if you're going to paint a sign or do something too, there's a lot of elements of hiking. So it's a really fun, diverse group of people that we get to work with and projects that we get to support too. There's the mundane stuff like filing, administrative support, washing and folding uniforms,
Yep.
camping equipment. Like, there's stuff that isn't so shiny and pretty and out in the park too that takes a lot of time and effort
Yeah.
behind the scenes to pull together too. So
Yeah.
sometimes they help with that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a jack of all trades or a Jacqueline of all trades.
Yeah.
We have about 8 more minutes, so I don't want to skip talking about the government shutdown.
Yeah.
Um, we had so many people reach out to us during the shutdown and ask, should we be going into the park at all? We, as a trust team, publicly were encouraging people not to go into the park during the shutdown. But there were many concerned park lovers who just would come up to us and say, why can't we just get in the car and go to the park and pick up garbage? And that was coming from a place of such caring and dedication. Um, but lacking the knowledge and experience that you had, I wasn't able to contextualize it. And I would love for you to do that now, to paint that big picture for us.
Thank you. No, that's a great question. And it is a hard one to kind of navigate when there's
Yep.
so many different pieces
Yep.
involved. So we do lean on policy heavily. There's a lot that we can and can't do that is dictated in policy. So, reference manual 7 came out of director's order 7. And so that governs the volunteer work that the National Park Service is allowed to do. So that's our top tier of what kind of guides our work.
Yep.
And so getting really well versed in that policy is super important on how to manage the program during challenging times like these. So while volunteers can't replace professional staff, they do significantly expand what we're able to accomplish. So for example, like during the shutdown in October, I was able to stay in communication with volunteers and help them understand the situation,
Mm,
and kind of break down, the policy around, more broadly, just that the VIP program wasn't operating during the shutdown. So all of the
volunteer in
forms and
park.
and things that were
Yep.
in place, weren't being enacted. So when you sign a volunteer service agreement, that's like step one to volunteer in the park. We weren't able to sign up new volunteers because Karina has to sign that paperwork. And then in that case, you are protected, through workers' comp or those tort liability claims. So safety, and preparedness is our number one priority. So that's number one,
Yep.
too. But then there's a whole nother side of, you know, even with the best intentions, you know, we're contributing to traffic, impeding resource protection, taking a unified stance with our philanthropic partners on please don't visit the park during the shutdown because we're trying to relieve the limited staff that are working, tasked with being inundated with visitors because, there's no fee collection at the stations. Restrooms and trash maintenance are overflowing because we don't have a lot of those needs. So say you come up and who's to say that you might not have a run in with an animal or a visitor or have a traffic incident? Just reducing the number of search and rescue. Um, VIP operations, like I said, we're really policy heavy. So, we don't want to add to the perception that volunteers can replace rangers and like
Right.
reinforce the need for professional NPS staff. That uniform is so cool and it is super respected. And
Yeah.
this is the job of NPS rangers. But it's also not fair to place that level of responsibility on volunteers without the proper supervision, without the proper safety and preparedness protocols too. So I think that's the umbrella of why we couldn't welcome more volunteers into the park, even though we wanted to and could probably have really used it.
Right, right. It's a difficult situation, Morgan, and you have taught me a lot about how to answer that question because, as I said, our supporters were worried during the shutdown about what was happening in Shenandoah. And we certainly understand that, but we also care about safety and we care about the flora and fauna. And the lack of supervision means that we could create a situation where something or somebody gets hurt, and we don't want that during the shutdown.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, since the shutdown was over, your office has been very busy. Give us, as we close out, just a sort of bird's eye view of number of hours. I know that there's this beautiful chart that you provided that I will send out to our guests about the different divisions and who does what. And obviously, you said trails takes up a lot of volunteer time, but to tell us number of hours we're talking about here. I mean, it really is mind blowing that volunteers on the ground are doing X hours of work across the park.
Right? It's
Yeah.
it's really cool to see how much more we can do with the volunteer support and how much better we can do it too. We often see the independent sector estimate for hourly dollar value of the volunteer work referenced. It's
Hmm.
currently around $36.14 per hour.
Oh, wow.
So if you look at last year's numbers, we had nearly 800 volunteers serving Shenandoah, and in total, that was over 27,000 hours. So if you were to do the math there, could you imagine, the amount
Wow.
that, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
27,000 hours. That's a number that I'm going to carry with me.
yes. So of
Yeah,
those hours,
yeah.
461 were position-based volunteers,
Which
and
means,
three. Yep. So they were working like in visitor centers, or they're campground hosts, or they're the ones that are on schedule, have to be there.
yep,
The ones that work down at Rapidan out of the Creel House. So there's a variety of different volunteer positions, whether you're one time just coming out to help with like a forest health monitoring project as you have time, or whether you are on the schedule and coming in or live in the park. Cultural resources, we have museum management volunteers, natural resources, interpretive education, facilities management, search and rescue has a lot of volunteers too. Campground hosts are a huge one. We have the sweetest campground hosts that have been coming back between 7 and 10 years. So it grows this community and this sense of family and belonging. We're shorthanded right now on volunteer hats. We just need to find someone that can embroider the patch on the hat. And these ladies offered to do that for us. They're like, drop it off at our camper and we'll get those sewn on for you. So it's amazing to
yeah,
see how people come together and just make things work.
yeah. Well, we have 1 minute, so I'm going to ask you to summarize your entire year in 1 minute. Ready, go. No, I'm just kidding. Um, I guess I would love for you to have the last word about what you feel was accomplished this year and looking ahead, what you're excited about.
Oh, to
You have
sum it
30,
up,
60 seconds. Go.
I know, right? Well, we got a late start. Can I have an extra minute?
Yes, you may.
Okay. Um, yeah, so I'm probably most proud of and feel the most impact with just connecting with young people, providing those career development opportunities to youth. I feel like I'm coming into this world late. Like, I'm not considered a youth. I wouldn't qualify for any of these intern positions. And looking back in hindsight, I would have loved to have known about Shenandoah Youth Crew or a Scientists and Parks internship. So sharing all of these opportunities to get your foot in the door with the park and learn from National Park Service staff and rangers, giving them the opportunities to ask them questions and shadow rangers,
Hmm.
all the different programming and junior ranger badges you can earn, just seeing them get excited about the park and wanting to protect it is
Yeah,
really cool.
yeah,
And seeing them be interested in careers in the park later on. Like most of the jobs you can find down in the valleys surrounding the park, there's a lot of those opportunities up in the park. And something that people don't think about is wastewater treatment facilities. There's a young man on our Shenandoah youth crew right now. They're currently touring the wastewater treatment facilities with our chief of that area.
facilities.
And
Yeah,
yeah, and so
yeah.
they are getting a hands-on, like that was his passion, and they welcomed him into the water treatment plant to give him a tour and give him an inside peek to the people that do their jobs, and having networking connections. Everyone's willing to give them their contact information if they want to stay in touch, and so it's a beautiful thing to see the youth get so involved and excited about it. So that's my big takeaway.
That's a great answer. You're building future stewards of the park
Yeah.
and you're doing workforce development and you're helping the communities around the park envision themselves both as stewards and as people who could work in that space of conservation and protection. So, well, we'll bring you back after you've got a little more time under your belt to report back. But I really, really appreciate you leaving the field to come here and talk to us and give us a small glimpse into what you do every day. And we really appreciate you and we're glad you're part of our staff.